So Ireland's leading multi-mobility app, Free Now, is partnering with Munster Rugby as its official mobility partner until 2025. The new partnership will bring a Free Now and Munster Rugby together for the new season and over the next 3 years. And as part of that deal, I'm delighted to be joined by Munster's Shane Daly. How are you keeping, Shane?
All good, all good. I think yourself.
All is good. So yet again, I won't say it's a late call, but suddenly you find yourself heading to South Africa. You're part of this emerging Ireland squad. I'm sure you've heard a lot of the debate around it. I think a lot of it's because it was announced so late as to the impact it's having on the provinces and whether this is the right thing for the emerging players to be leaving at the start of the UR season to go off and play an emerging Ireland tour. You're one of those selected. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, I suppose getting selected for Ireland under any circumstances is something you can't ever take lightly or you can't take for granted. I think that's the biggest thing. Obviously, when the squad was announced, it all kind of happened quite quickly. We were only told kind of on the day, and pre the announcement, there wasn't too much information given to players as to who'd be going, similar to a normal announcement of an Irish squad. So something that we all kind of had to kind of figure out quickly. And but I think everyone's on the same page now that it's the best place to be. And obviously there's the side that we're missing a couple of games here at Munster, but obviously with the year that's in with the World Cup at the end of the season, there's nothing better than playing in an Irish system in front of the Irish coaches. So it's not something that any of us can take for granted.
Yeah, I assume you're looking at this as an enormous opportunity a year out from a World Cup to show that I guess you're a sponge in this sort of environment, that you can take on information, that you can perform when it comes to it, and that depending on how club form goes, that there'll be no doubts about you personality wise or readiness if an opportunity comes up in 12 months' time.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can't replicate playing for Ireland in front of the coaches and playing the systems they play. Even every province plays their own kind of ways, and you might be good at one and you mightn't be as good at another one. I think they won't really know that until you're able to step up to the pressure as well that international rugby comes with. And I think it'll be a good indicator for them going forward.
You've played big games for Munster. You've played big knockout games in Champions Cup, so you know about pressure. But you're one of the senior players on this tour, I guess. You know, you're one of the few who have a couple of senior caps. How different is the experience of pulling on a green jersey to a red jersey?
Yeah, it's something that you can't really. It's hard to say. Obviously, you're immensely proud to play both, and I think everyone growing up, probably their first goal is to play for Munster, and I suppose that was definitely mine. So when you do end up breaking into that, so that's like your first kind of step done, and once you've achieved that, then it's only natural that you look at the next thing, and the next thing is playing for Ireland. I think ever since I got my first Munster game, it was something that I was always kind of wanting to do, and once I got the opportunity, then it was incredible. And I think you never really know how many people support you, how many people actually watch you, and how much people it affects, your family and your extended family and things. And I suppose only when you play for Ireland do you actually see like how much people get out of you putting on that green jersey. And I think that's something that I'm incredibly proud of.
It does sound as though part of this emerging Ireland plan will be that week on week planning for big games and how players can pick up instruction quite quickly and getting used to the feedback mechanisms that the coaching team have in place. When you look at yourself in a Munster dressing room, in an Ireland dressing room, do you feel you're a quick learner? You're somebody who can slide into different setups quite easily?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I suppose I've jumped around a lot in my career so that I've had to learn quickly. I think I've moved a lot from like when I was 20s to 7s back into Munster environments, into national setups. I think it's something that I'm used to, kind of picking things up quickly and having to learn quickly. And I suppose by having to now, I think it's something that's a strength of mine. And look, I would know a lot of the stuff going in there already, which is something I'm quite thankful for. And I'm quite aware that a lot of the squad, it'll be their first time in there, and even simple things like all the calls and the terminology will be different. So there's going to be a responsibility on fellas like me who've been in there to get those lads moving in the same direction. I think that's something that I'm going to definitely take a responsibility for.
Is there anything you can let us in on from your previous spells in camp that you do get that's different? Obviously, it's different individuals involved, and every coach is going to have their own individual way of working. But that, when you go back and you're talking to some of the younger lads at Munster, they'd be surprised by maybe?
I think that the biggest thing, I suppose, everyone, and I definitely felt when I was first going in, that it was going to be very daunting and real high pressure and stuff, but it's actually quite the opposite. I think everyone's so kind of experienced and on top of their own work and stuff. There's not that high pressure element. No one's trying to figure stuff out at the last second. It's so professional that it's actually very relaxed. Like, people are on top of what they're doing, and I think that's something that's very settling for a young fella. You see how good the top performers are at getting their stuff right in the week, and you can learn from that every week. And I think that's something that I took massively. And even just the way the coaches were, they're incredibly calm in giving their message across, even when things aren't going well. I think they knew that the players were smart enough to figure things out as well, and they kind of give the players a bit of a license in that sense. And that's something I thought was really empowering for a player.
Is there any sense of mixed emotions going? It doesn't sound like you want to represent Ireland, but you started last weekend for Munster. You're playing a full back. You're playing across that back three, and it's such a competitive position at Munster. That stepping away for a month from that at a crucial time where you were probably a month ago thinking, right, I'm going to start this season like a house on fire. When those big Champions Cup games come up, I'm going to put myself in a position that I'm in that 15 or I'm in that 23, and that's. You leaving opens the door for somebody else.
Yeah, like, I think at the same time, you have to assume that where you're going is best for you. And this is obviously being planned by the coaches, and you'd have to think there was a lot of input from both sides in that scenario. So, like, I don't feel like I'm missing out too much. Obviously, it's going to be a part of me that's going to be watching the games. Like, I obviously want to play for Munster. I want to play for Munster every time they're playing since I was a child. So, like, missing games is not something I'm ever going to be happy about. But I know that going on the tour is what's best for me. And I think going forward, it's where I want to be. And if I'm performing on that tour, I'd like to think that it puts me in a good position coming back in as well, that I'm not missing out just because I wasn't playing in the Munster setup.
You mentioned earlier on that you played sevens for Ireland as well, and obviously did a huge achievement over the last couple of weeks at the World Cup. I'm sure you were keeping a keen eye on it. When you reflect, because I'm sure it's a path many more will start to look at as it becomes more and more successful, how has that helped you develop your game when you've gone back to 15s?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with sevens is it's your core skills that it drives. You have to be good at all of them, because if you're not, you're just found out so quickly. It's everything on a more emphasized scale. You can't get away with having weaknesses too clearly in those games. There's too much space, and the players are too talented to have those in your game. And I think you've even seen how the likes of Che Mullins and Andrew Smith were just over there, and they're included in the squad. Just goes to show like how well that system is at getting players and transferring them into the 15s game. So I'm looking forward to meeting those lads and seeing how they transition into the 15s, just coming from a World Cup. It's something I've done before myself, and it's not an easy thing to do, but they look well able, in fairness to them.
So whatever bit of catching up you might have to do on the physicality side of it is probably outweighed by the skill set that you need to learn, the frantic nature of those games. You become very used to games being played at 100 miles an hour.
100%. I think that the fitness element is something that the lads definitely won't struggle with anyway. That's something that I definitely took a lot from. The fitness it's different gravy. I think people see it and see there's 40 minutes in a game, but it's just the worst 40 minutes you'll ever experience. It's nothing like it. There's times the 15s game you're tired, but then the ball goes out for a minute and a half, and if you have the work done, you should be in a decent state by the time it comes back, and you don't get that in sevens. It's straight in. The scrums are quick, the lineouts are straight away. It's there's no hiding there, and I think that's something that has been a good thing to experience, and it teaches you what you can kind of push yourself through as well when you feel like you can't do anything more. So that's definitely a learning as well.
While it is an emerging Ireland squad, you're at a stage in your career, I guess, where you feel now you need to be making a big impact. You're going to be, I think, 26 in a couple of months' time, and like, life moves quickly. It's 2 years since you made your international debut, and everyone looks at you then when you're 23 going, it's a natural progression. And next thing you find yourself, you're 26 and you're trying to really establish yourself. What were your sort of thoughts during the summer? I don't know if you're the type who sits down and writes out your goals on a piece of paper, or how you plot out what you'd hope for this season to be for you.
Yeah, look, obviously the big one of this season is the World Cup at the end of the year, and I think having new coaches come in and things like that, it's just a completely new dynamic, and it was something that I was really excited about coming back in this year. But yeah, for me, like, it's been the same the last few seasons, but really just getting into the Munster squad consistently and playing my best. I think the system this year allows me to express myself a lot more than I maybe might have been able to before, and I think that's something I'm really excited about, and getting my hands on the ball a lot more and being able to actually look for the ball rather than kind of waiting for it on those edges, I think is something that I'm really excited about. And I have no excuses if I'm in control, and I think that's something that I'm really excited about. And for this season, I want to just show people what I can do a lot more. I think last year we were kind of used as wingers anyway. We were used kind of strike runners and kick chasers and things, and not something that I don't like doing, but I feel like there's a lot more facets to my game, having grown up as a centre and things that I wasn't able to show last year. So I'm quite excited to show that to people.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it develops, because listen, I'm sure as a player, you're always loath to criticize a former coach or anything like that. But the Munster game plan did take a lot of criticism, and it didn't seem to provide the platform for the creative, for the attacking players to fully show their skill set at times last season. It's fine when you're winning games, but when you're losing games, suddenly everybody starts questioning. Would you have been someone in camp who felt you could question as to why you weren't allowed to show your best stuff all the time?
Like, the coach decides what's best for the team, and he obviously felt that for the team that we had and the players that we had, that game plan was best. And look, it got us quite far, but like, there was a lot of talent that I felt. Obviously, as a back three player, you always want the ball in your hands, and everyone is gonna think that as well, and they're gonna be a bit selfish from that perspective. But I think this season now, especially the back three, especially, and centres are allowed to kind of express themselves a lot more and kind of get into positions where they're able to make plays, and it's not all about the out half or the nines dictating everything we do. I think there's a lot more license on fellas to be able to do their thing. But it's no offense to our previous coaches. I think at the time when they're in there, you don't realize until something changes how different things can be. And I think just from my perspective, from a back three perspective, it's definitely something that's more exciting. Like, maybe other players in the team might think differently, but that's something that I'm definitely excited about.
It did feel last weekend in that opening game against Cardiff that it'll probably be a transition. Munster will be hoping it's a quick transition, that when you are used to playing a certain style, that you want to get your hands on the ball more often, but when you're not used to it, the game changes quickly. How have you found those first couple of months with Graham Rowntree as the head coach and with Mike Prendergast coming in terms of getting used to not just being the strike runner or being the guy chasing the kicks, actually having to take on a lot more responsibility?
Yeah, it's something that I'm massively excited about, but it's also a challenge. I think you get so used to playing a certain way, so it's that transition to kind of being more confident, step into those positions, and that's a big element of it for me anyway. And I think it's more aligned to what the national team are doing as well, which is something that's good as well. It's they use their back three they're very versatile, and they're able to kind of get into positions even first receiver a lot of the time, which is the type of thing that I want to be doing more. And I think that's something that we're all kind of very excited about as those kind of players. But it's sorry, I've actually forgot the initial question. What was the initial question there?
I guess it was that you're talking about getting used to a new coaching system when you've had to play a certain style of game for a number of years. It does sound as though you relish the responsibility, the extra responsibility that'll come.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's what I was on about.
Yeah, would you know much about Mike Prendergast? Would you have been following his career and have had a sense of what he wants from a team?
Yeah, obviously I'd have just known that he was with Racing, and I'd have watched how Racing played and some of the individuals they had in their team and how they were allowed to express themselves, like the likes of Finn Russell and Teddy Tama and fellas like this. I think like, just by watching the team, he's a fella that isn't afraid to move the ball and to make big plays. And I think that's something that we all as backs are massively excited about. And as an attack in general, I think it's something that we're going to get so much better at. Obviously the last few weeks we've had a few disappointing results, but I think the intention was always good. And I think we've tried to play the right way. It's a transition. It's never going to be seamless. And a lot of the mistakes we're making are kind of handling errors and things like that, which can't even be coached. So it's a big responsibility on the players as well to get their own stuff right before we can kick forward.
I know a lot of the senior players were back in training this week, and I'd imagine transition is the last thing they want to be talking about. The likes of Conor Murray and Peter O'Mahony, who've been there for probably well over a decade. You look at Conor Murray, who maybe just missed the real golden era of Munster, and while he's had huge personal success, the last thing he wants is people saying, "Oh well, 12 to 18 months, Munster will be back where they want to be." Doesn't have that time.
Yeah, no, like, nobody's waiting around. I think we're not looking at this season as a transitionary season. We're still only in the first couple of months. I think we have that window to try things and figure out what works best for us. But like, this isn't the type of season that we're kind of waiting to see what happens and see where we stand. We're very much looking to win every week and see where it takes us.
Rugby is your game now, but reading up on you quite the varied background, as a lot of kids do, particularly in Cork. Was it College Corinthians you played with?
Yeah, Corinthians, yeah.
It's quite the conveyor belt of talent there right now.
Yeah, it is. It's an incredible club. It's I spent most of my childhood up there, and even the facilities they have, but also the coaches and the players that have come through now in the last few years is unreal to see. And I think they're finally getting their rewards for all the kind of work that's gone on up there for the last however many years.
Did you get to play with any of the current lads who were involved in the Ireland setup?
Not really. They're all actually a bit younger than me now. I'm older than I think these days. They're all quite young now. Like Adam Eade and a few of these fellas. There's serious players that have come from the club. So no, it's class to see them doing well.
So off to South Africa Sunday, is it?
Sunday, yeah.
Not your first trip. Usually they're very uneventful, and flights go on time, and you get home when you expect to go home and all that.
Yeah. I'm well used to it. There's nothing that can chat me over there anyway, so I'm sure I'll be all right.
Fingers crossed. Well, listen, very best of luck with it, Shane, over the next 3 weeks. Hope you get to make the impression that you want to do, and thanks for talking to us and off the ball.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it.